Hi, everyone. If you've been following Sierra Club on social media, you know that at this time we usually do our Act at Home virtual chats. And often on Friday, our staff come to you with a recap of the week and a preview of our next week. But today we're canceling our usual chat to talk about something really important, and that's the lynching that happened in Minnesota of George Floyd. Before we dig into that, I just want to say first, if you're a Sierra Club supporter or member of color, and especially if you're Black, I wanted to share a resource with you that was recommended to us. It's called Internalizations, and it's in the description of this video. It's about internalized racism and about the impact that racism has mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually on people of color. And so I wanted to share that with you. But the rest of this conversation is really focused at Sierra Club's white members and supporters because it's clear we need to have a really serious discussion. And so for the rest of this video, we're again talking to our white members and supporters and talking about doing some serious anti-racism work. Before we share some of those resources, I wanted to read Sierra Club's statement in response to the murder of George Floyd. We all deserve to thrive in safe communities, yet the inhumane daily assault on Black and brown people directly threaten our ability to maintain a healthy planet. The cruel public lynching of George Floyd is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. We cannot expect to come together to protect the planet if racism continues to tear us apart. The Sierra Club is committed to confronting the inequality embedded in our society that has allowed these tragedies to persist. If we want to create communities that are truly safe, just, and equitable, we must continue fighting for the humanity and the dignity of all people. And so to partake in that conversation about ongoing learning, all of us on chapter staff and our chapter chair are here today to share some things that we're thinking about and learning from, all to say that we're not experts. We're all doing learning and growing right now. We don't have all the answers, but we do know that it's something that we need to talk about as a Sierra Club family. And so that's what we're here to do. So we're gonna go around and share some of those resources, and I'll kick us off. So something I've been thinking a lot about lately is not distancing myself from my whiteness, and there have been a couple of resources that have been really important for me as I do that. One is a blog post that came out just a couple days ago called 5 Racist Anti-Racism Responses Good White Women Give to Viral Posts. And reading that blog, I definitely could reflect and see that I had done all 5 of those things at some point. And so I'm doing a lot of self-reflection and really trying to identify where white supremacy comes up for me. Another resource that's helped me do that is a book by Layla Saad called White Supremacy and Me. You can purchase it at meandwhitesupremacybook.com. And again, we'll link all of these resources in the description. But it's a 28-day challenge and was really impactful the first time I worked through it, and I'm starting to work through it again. And then the third resource I wanted to share is typically in person. It's canceled right now, but they have a really helpful website, and that's the Institutes of Healing Racism in Madison. The 10-week course that's really focused on self-changing and healing the pathology of racism. So those are 3 resources that have been on my mind right now. So to others on our staff and our chair to share what they've been thinking about lately.
Thanks, Cassie. I've been thinking about a lot of the same things. I'm sure all of us have been, but you know how crucial a role privilege pays and bias pays, whether it's unconscious or overt in my own life. And I don't have any specific resources to share other than the trainings we've gone through together as staff, but I've been focusing on talking with my family, talking with my friends, processing this, and talking with the people in my social circles about a lot of this. Not to try and change anybody's minds outright, but it's important to me that the people I care about and the people that are really close to me understand this, and trying to have those conversations with them and trying not to add anything any more increasingly negative, whether on social media or anything like that, and supporting in any ways that I can that are helpful right now.
That's awesome, Katie. Thanks. Yeah, there have been plenty of conversations going on here as well. Some are, more comfortable to have than others. And, but I think the willingness to have them is, so important, whether it's comfortable or not. And I sort of feel like my personal journey over the past few years has been similar. I've been focusing on learning to get better at recognizing some of the more subtle forms of privilege and how I might benefit from them, or sometimes even inadvertently, support keeping them in place without even realizing it. It's kind of tricky, right? Because so many of them are so normalized in our society that they just hide in plain sight. Um, One of the resources that I found really helpful um, is the Privilege Institute. They're based in Green Bay. They host an amazing national conference each year that explores systems of privilege. And they also have a lot of great resources on their website. And one of the other resources that I had the opportunity to take part in recently was a session with Mindfulness for the People. And I love the approach that they take. Dr. Angela Rose Black has a really compassionate approach to exploring white fragility. And there were some great conversations, really honest conversations that took place there as well, that I feel like have maybe helped me navigate some of the current conversations a little better. But like Cassie said, not an expert ever. This is kind of an ongoing process, I think. So.
Yeah, thanks. I have similarly been sort of leaning into the discomfort and working on that and difficult conversations. I've historically had a lot of these conversations, but with people who think like I do, and have been really leaning into the conversations with people I normally avoid talking anything controversial with. Similarly, I've been working to put myself in more places, whether it's more communities, more gatherings or events, which is on hold right now, virtual spaces where I am in the minority. So there are more people of color than there are white people in the room, and lean into that discomfort, empathize with the way it's usually the opposite, and watch the interactions there and how those interactions are between people are very different than the other spaces I'm usually in. And in terms of a resource, last year, our executive committee and staff went through a training by August Ball of Cream City Conservation together, and I just wanted to do a shout out for her. She's been working with the Great Waters Group to host a lot of trainings that are available to the public or speak at a lot of their group meetings. So I recommend people look and see if those are any upcoming ones are happening. She, similarly to what Jacinda was saying, speaks in a very accessible, compassionate way that I think makes it really a lot easier to have these conversations.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth and others. For me, I'm an older white male, which means I'm in a position of privilege, and I take a lot of things for granted or have, and trying to realize that that's not true for everybody else. I was brought up to believe that everybody should have equal access in society, and it's become evident over time that that's not true, and especially with recent events. It's not only people that have access, but they may not be able to keep their lives because they're different. And that just troubles me greatly. And so I've been trying to spend time to learn about my own privilege. Here in Dane County, where I am, we're supposed to be fairly progressive. And yet in 2013, we had a race equity report came out that described how here, and I know it's similar in Milwaukee, we have such great disparities and we're talking a good game, but we're not resolving things. And that just isn't sitting well with me. So I've been trying to take advantage of some of the resources I have here in this community to learn more about my own privilege, understand what people of color are going through that I'm not. It was really driven home to me at one point listening to a talk when I realized if you're Black and you're out in white society, you're not free. And that just really struck me hard. So, I took the workshop with August Ball, and the YWCA is offering some great stuff here. They have online live streams at least once a month. I can't remember the frequency, but I also took a racial history and workshop class there to learn about the history and how we've gotten to be where we are now. I know Dr. Alex G., the Reverend at the Fountain of Life Church, he has a great podcast series about the experience of Black people that's really worth listening to and catching up on. So, and there are a lot of great organizations, including those I just mentioned, that you can contribute money to or see if there's anything else they contribute. I also know there's a great organization, the Black Women's Wellness Foundation, and Centro Hispano, or a couple of others. And Voces de la Frontera, that's what I was thinking of also. So, but also in our work here to realize that oftentimes people are left out of key things, even though we talk the good game, that transportation has to, when we're working on that, has to serve the communities of color who need it most. And that when we're talking clean energy policy, we can't just talk about equity, but we have to build it into the systems. And so when there are other programs that affect them, to say, is this being utilized to serve everybody? So it's an ongoing journey and learning for me. I've realized as I work with other people and talk with other people how much I don't know and understand, but I'm just not willing to sit still and listen and watch as these terrible incidents go on. And coming out of this pandemic, we can't go back to what was considered normal. We have to make some systemic change, and that's really what I want to see us do through the Sierra Club.
Yeah. Thank you all for sharing some resources that you're learning from right now. For those of you who are watching this, please do feel free to share some things that you're learning right now and some resources that you think are valuable in the comments. And then if you are looking for ways to support our neighbors in Minnesota right now, there is a bail fund set up that is minnesotafreedomfund.org. So you can give to support that. Here in Wisconsin, Alex Edwards, who we partner with through the NAACP Environmental Justice Committee, created a pledge in honor of George Floyd. And so you can take that pledge saying that you will not allow injustice to happen on your watch. We'll link to that pledge that he has started in the description as well. There were a lot of really good suggestions in what Don just said. So supporting organizations local to you that are led by people of color, donating to those organizations, and supporting the solutions that they're pushing for. As Katie mentioned, and Jacinda and Elizabeth, talk to your family and friends. This is a conversation that we all need to have with each other. And finally, really commit to doing the work. None of us are experts on this, but we need to keep learning and growing. And I hope that you'll join us on that journey. So thanks for listening in today, and we will see you at our next Act at Home virtual chat on Monday.